Before the controversial presidential candidate. Before the Republican. Donald Trump lent his name to a little-known Tycoon title set around his career as a real estate developer. And now, thanks to Jack and Amy, two of my very good friends from back home in the UK, I now own a copy of Donald Trump's Real Estate Tycoon. Thank you, I think. Immediately, from the opening cutscene, you will notice that this is a very dated title. Originally released in 2002, the game's title menu and little opening cinematic hark back to 90s releases such as Rollercoaster Tycoon. The actual game itself plays on the same 2D sprite art style that Rollercoaster Tycoon also relies on. But again, this game was released in 2002. Compare it to some other games of the same year, such as Morrowind, and it really sets in how dated it actually is. For crying out loud, Rollercoaster Tycoon, which, I promise this will be the last time I bring it up, was released in 1999. It's a very odd direction to start with, and I'll be honest, the low quality doesn't really improve from here. So the particular copy I own is on the Explosive product line, which is a line ran by Empire Entertainment. Sadly, Empire went bust in 2009. Also, 2009 is the year that Donald Trump officially registered as a Republican in his home state of New York. Just a fun little coincidence. So the point of the game is to be the world's best real estate developer. The main game consists of taking on Donald Trump in a business battle, but first we've got to complete 5 mini missions before we get our chance at stumping the Trump. Of course, we get to choose our name and our business title, so I've gone for the other runner who currently wants a one-on-one with Trump, Ted Cruz of Zodiac Incorporated. And now our quest begins. Gameplay-wise, it breaks down to buying a building or a plot of land, refurbishing said building or building on the plot of land, and then selling or renting out the spaces in the building. There's 3 types of building space available: offices, shops, and condos, and we can operate business from the in-game hours of 6 AM to 10 PM across 5 different cities in 4 separate time zones. When it hits 10 PM in one zone, you switch to another office or another time zone and you work that city instead. Standard stuff until you realise the game's hours are awkwardly short, approximately 6 seconds to 1 in-game hour, which makes each workday roughly a minute and a half of real time. The problem with this is that most cities end up being projects of their own, and 95% of your projects are going to take much longer than a couple of minutes. The plus side to this is that as long as you stay on the building tab, you can keep working that individual building no matter what the time is. The downside though is that you can lose track of time in the game very easily, and if you just miss a chance on clicking on another building, you're completely locked out of that city until 6 AM rolls around. And to pile it on, the game gives no visual indication as to what time of day it is, or even the passage of time, so as a result I was frequently being locked out. That all said, it is pretty cool that you can buy and manage real estate in 5 major cities across the globe. It's a fantastic representation of the 90s economic boom. I guess Trump was right. The economy really does do better under Democrats. I already mentioned that once I've claimed a property and rebuilt it, we can then sell vacant spaces, but I didn't particularly mention the economics at play here. You can either rent out the spaces or sell them. Naturally, renting with a monthly fee pays off better in the long term, with guaranteed income coming in every month, but selling is a quick way to make a lot of money. And since this game revolves around the almighty dollar, you're going to be doing a lot of selling early on, especially if you want to get a leg up in the main goal of the game. Oh, right. How could I possibly forget what the point of this game is? So after you've graduated from the Trump Entrepreneur Initiative, you unlock the Battle Mode, in which you can take on Donald Trump one-on-one, mano-a-mano, in a business challenge. The challenge mode works something like this. You go into business as normal, but at the same time, Donald Trump is also on the board, represented in red and buying and investing in properties. The goal here is to be the party to come out on top with higher profit and net worth, or bluntly, to be the one who doesn't go bankrupt. Because of the daily time limit being an issue, it's kind of hard to get going inside of the set year time gameplay. So instead of going for a set match of 7 years, we went for unlimited time mode, in which we're locked in the capitalism coliseum with Trump until one of us goes bankrupt. Thus, our war began. Early on, Trump decided to set up his stronghold in all 3 North American cities: Los Angeles, Atlantic City, and New York. Though I also went into Atlantic City, our genius move was to invest in Europe, building hard and heavy in Paris. A deadlock would ensue for many years of business, in which some very strange things took place. Though Trump had no properties in Atlantic City on the board for a couple of years, the progress bar on our city showed him having activity in the area. Also, for the longest time, he had a much bigger net worth than me, even though Trump owned fewer buildings and hadn't diversified his portfolio as well as we did. He was taking out loans. Much like real life, if you haven't got the cash to hand for a certain project, you can take out a loan. Much like real life as well, you have to pay said loan back over a certain period of time with a certain rate of interest. Annoyingly in this game, there's a cheap little exploit which you can grow your net worth up quite significantly by taking out a small loan with the maximum interest for a short period of time. Donnie was literally abusing the system. I repeat, Donald Trump was abusing the system. Undeterred by underhand tactics, my new strategy came into play. Because I'd made a buttload of money selling properties in Paris, I started to occupy the previously untouched London and turned it entirely into a rental-based city. Suddenly, as the in-game months passed, I was pocketing millions upon millions of dollars for literally doing nothing and rapidly catching up to the previously unstumpable Trump. The only problem was that this was taking time. Seriously, after a while, it actually became more efficient for me to leave the game alone for 20 or so minutes at a time, so my revenue stream would generate by itself. After a while here, the player input becomes secondary, and it just kind of ends up being a game where you make your own fun. Alas, the masterstroke was at hand. Paris was mine, London was a cinch, and Atlantic City was crumbling to my will. Now it was time to go on the full offensive. My strategy evolved once more, and it became buy out all of Trump's building and kill his revenue stream. And, after an hour of real time, I'd taken his most valuable buildings in all but Los Angeles. The tawdry Trump was well and truly cancelled and left in the dirt, and as Zodiac Inc. moved to La La Land, we took LA from him too. The battle, it seemed, was over. Trump could no longer grow and instead was sat on a pile of cash from all of his loans, and his buildings were all mine. However, the game continued in this bizarre stalemate. By the end of the game, Mr. Trump was sitting on around $320 million, but zero net worth, because I had completely monopolized the globe. And because there was nothing for him to really do, he just did nothing. He just stared at his giant pile of money. I even force sold him several plots of land, but after he built on them, he just kind of ignored them without expanding at all. I ended up buying them from him, and with that, the realization that this challenge was well and truly over. I may not have bankrupted Donald Trump. He may have way more money than I had. But I had the bigger net worth, and with my totalitarian grip on the globe, he was dumbfounded, forced out of the industry that made him a success. So, simply, he decided just to not play. For the first time in history, ladies and gentlemen, I had stumped the Trump. It's fair to say that, in concept, that as a game, Donald Trump's Real Estate Tycoon is pretty standard fare for a business simulation experience. However, it lacks all of the soul and fun of other great titles in the genre. The extensively long playtime is also a massive undertaking. Getting through the first 5 missions is a complete chore, especially since several of them can take hours to complete. And then you get locked into the battle mode, which takes goddamn forever. With the frustrating business hours locking out your productivity and mandatory wait times, the whole thing falls flat very quickly. Could anybody find any enjoyment in this game? Well, maybe not by playing it, but let's click on some random people in the game.
Near the tower is a good location for shot.
You silly American. You silly American.
Yeah, this game literally has nothing. Here's something weird though. When I was doing research for this video, I uncovered next to nothing about the game's developer, Airborne Studios. All I could find was a sweet listing under the name in Canada, and a string of budget and mobile titles associated with that studio. Hell, I could barely find anything comprehensive about this game. No walkthroughs, very few reviews, and a bare-bone Wikipedia article that recycles the blurb from the back of the box. What gives? It feels like somebody tried to wipe this game from the record, like somebody tried to force the world to forget this game ever existed. The madness deepens when you look into the American release date. It was February 2005, a full 3 years later than the rest of the world. Something's kind of fishy here. Review-wise, it wasn't panned. I mean, the game was instantly forgotten and almost nobody seems to know that it exists. But something must have made Trump so financially unviable at that time in the US that nobody wanted to go near him. Whatever that might be, I don't really care. I've got some reading to catch up on. Say, has anybody else noticed that this book is 4 chapter 11s?